In the age of dawn, once upon a dynasty, a child of blood and filth was nameless to society, without consent to perform unnatural acts of adultery, a slave to slaughter, a trophy to their victory, her screams suppressed, a youth with no memory, as death granted her soul to sleep in purgatory, her soul to claim the day she felt morality, and flames of hell protected her tears in reality, as the ashes lingered comfortably in her serenity, to erase her mind, to cleanse her disgraceful history. From enduring pain, from man with no humanity, and rage was born in the mask with no personality. To die in hate was her sadistic, euphoric destiny. Pupils of darkness, her reflection evoked a soulless vanity, seeing both shades that saved and raped her childhood sanity. When everything kept hurting, I would wonder why the sun would keep shining, until one day the sun didn't shine at all, and everything stopped hurting, and I felt nothing hurt anymore. When a heart is broken as an adult, it hurts, but with time, slowly it begins to heal. But I was not an adult when mine broke, and I wasn't sure if I even still had a heart inside of me. But my mind was able to erase the memory of what happened to me, as if it never happened at all, until I started having nightmares, and they were the same every night, to the point where I would be too scared to fall asleep because the nightmares didn't fade when I would wake, and I didn't know if I would still be me. Sometimes I would wake up and all I would do was cry. Other days I would wake up and I would be completely silent and blank without any emotions. But it was the third one that I was scared of the most, where I would wake up and I wouldn't be blank and I wouldn't be crying, but instead I was possessed by the darkness, as if they followed me out of my dreams, where I would wake up and I would be engulfed in rage. For a long time, I was still chained to the ghosts of the past, allowing them to haunt me as if they still had control, until I came face to face with one of them, and I wasn't dreaming. He was real. And in that moment, I had a thought that I could either be frozen in my fear, or I could open my eyes and look at the face that scared me when I was 13, and the ghost that still haunted me as an adult, and stare back at this person without fear. And that's exactly what I did. And since then, my nightmares didn't come back. My nightmares had no more control over me. When the nightmares started, I would write everything down as a journal. It was a coping mechanism for me. But when I used to read them back days later, I didn't remember writing any of the dark poetry. And when I think about it now, I think in order for me to have written those words, I would have had to have been in a very dark place. And I remember shouting out the names that they used to call me in the mirror at myself, because sometimes when I did wake up, the past and the present would link. And that's when I learnt that I suffered from PTSD. The one thing that I do want to mention is the stigma around mental health, and sometimes the misdiagnosis of PTSD, because some people only hear the illness but not see the person. And I believe that the discrimination is based upon the prejudice associated with the stigma of the label mental health or mental illness, which I believe comes from fear, and that fear is solely based on not understanding. For me to even just talk about my own story was not easy at the start. That's why I started writing, but I couldn't do it alone. All of my memories came back to haunt me about 2 years ago. And the first year, after being told that not only did I suffer from PTSD, I also had, or I was diagnosed with severe chronic depression, postnatal depression, and severe anxiety. And with all those big labels, I started to wonder if there was something wrong with me, which of course leads to self-discrimination and also self-stigma, along with public discrimination and assumptions based purely on misperceptions. And whilst I still believe that seeking professional help and complying with therapy would have done me a lot of good, I was constantly being put down. So what I found was an anonymous blog online where others out there also were in similar circumstances. And what I found was just reading their stories, I was inspired and motivated by their courage and their strength for them to be able to reach out and talk about so openly what they had gone through. And with the support, I was also able to share my story without the fear of being judged. When someone used to say to me, "Thank you for sharing your story," to say back with confidence, "No, thank you for your beautiful words." So with PTSD, it is so misunderstood because there's so many different forms of PTSD. But because of the label, we often fail to see the person behind the tears. And something so small as empathy, to say to the person or even see the person as a warrior or survivor, as opposed to shaming the person with a mental illness. Which brings me to sharing this story. It is to raise an awareness and also to inspire others who do have silent voices, and letting you know that you're definitely not alone. And sometimes all it takes is just to say out loud, "I was a victim," and finally believing and knowing that you were never to blame and you were never at fault for what happened to you. So for even those out there who has someone close to them that suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, some of them may not want to hear that what they did was an honor, and what they did was fight for their country, and for what they went through was a warrior's journey, and what they face now is only what they've already conquered. They're not their demons. And although we cannot change the past, always remind them that it was never their fault. And so to all those that do suffer from PTSD, please know that there are people out there who do see you, because you are the ones who get out of bed every single day fighting the same demons that haunts your wake. You are the ones who wear the scars on your sleeves, battling the demons that only you can see, feeling as though you live in the same twisted time loop, and with each wound has a scar, whether the scars are invisible or visible. May it be a reminder that you are a survivor, you are a hero, you are a warrior with a warrior's heart.